Hey, buddy.
Uh-oh, it's July.
What's happening? Yep, somebody's
Are
ready
you
for work.
social distancing or did you get thrown out?
Thrown out of where?
Work.
I'm home with the kids, so I'm still working from home.
There you go. Aren't we all?
Yeah.
You're not seeing itis today is the only difference.
Yeah,
Patrick,
I haven't seen Itis
Patrick,
actually all
what's with the vest?
I'm ready to work. I was at catering and,
Thank you, Cocktail Wench.
It's been a busy day. It's been a busy day.
That's hilarious. Very funny.
Does everybody have a Cocktail Wench?
Oh my God! Does everyone
keep rubbing it in,
see
Aaron?
Dearson's name? Does everyone see Dearson's name today?
Is that a little Maverick thing you got going on there, Dearson?
Yeah, I figured I'd just change up all the latest media.
So funny. That's hilarious.
Crazy.
Who is it?
Crazy.
It's John Featherstone has this killer background for Zoom that's like a tour rig and it's sort of like setup day or whatever in the middle of a venue. And people look at it and go, "What, you're working?" So it's quite funny.
Heather Bush.
Jesus. We got a whole bunch of people here today.
Matt's got the
So, wow, a lot of new people.
Hey, Sarah.
Lots and lots of new people. This is awesome.
Yeah,
thanks for letting me crash, Marcel.
Who was that?
That's Joe Lamont from NAM.
Hey, Joe. How are you?
Not trying to crash your party. Mary said it was pretty cool. I had to drop in.
Yeah, actually, I wanted either you or Mary to say a couple words because I don't know if anybody or everyone knows about this NAM organization thing with, I don't know much about it. I'm going to sound like an idiot, but it's like a public affairs department, and they're doing a webinar, I think, on Friday. So I don't know if either you or Mary could talk about that for 2 seconds because I think it's probably pretty important to everyone here.
Happy to, whenever you say.
Go ahead.
Okay.
We got we're not drunk yet, so we might retain information.
So I got you right where I want you. No, it might be better actually end of it. Look, NAM as a trade group, we've got a lobbying arm, right? I mean, most trade groups have a DC office. We do. They do a lot of lobbying. Primarily, the lobbying had been for music education in schools, but we pivoted, really started to work on how we can get this federal relief into our industry, making sure every music store can apply for the CARES Act, for the Paycheck Protection Plan. Also, we saw during that period that there wasn't a lot of lobbying being done for independents, for the gig workers. Of course, our world is full of that, and without the concert industry, we have no music industry. So we would put our lobbying team onto that with others to make sure that independents were going to be able to apply for all the money coming out of DC for the coronavirus. I mean, to put this in perspective, that CARES Act that was passed a week and a half ago now, it's $2.2 trillion. Those of you who've been around long enough will remember our grade school lessons about the Marshall Plan after World War II that rebuilt Europe. In today's dollars, what was passed for our own relief of coronavirus is 16 times what the Marshall Plan was. This is a lot of money. And of course, it's going to be abused and corrupted everywhere, but there's a lot there for our industry, for our music stores and for our small manufacturers, but there's also there for the contractors, for the people on tour that just had their summer wiped out. So Friday's webinar, and you can go to the website at nam.org to figure out how to log in and everything, is simply to show people how to get their money. If you've been laid off, if your gig was canceled, if your tour was canceled, get in there and get some of this money. And so we're going to show you how to do that.
You're muted.
Unmute.
I thought somebody Zoom bombed our call. I didn't realize I was muted. No, Joe, are you doing anything? I mean, that's amazing what you're doing there, but are you doing anything other than the just sort of the educational side of things? Like, do you have lobbyists? Are you guys poking at banks and the SBA to release some of this money? Because I know
Absolutely.
many people
I mean,
have applied.
I'll give you one.
But
I'll give you one
many who have
example.
gotten it yet. So.
Well, we just literally got off a webinar of music stores with 6 and some small manufacturers that were in flux. I think half of the panel that we just had on this webinar had been approved, although the checks hadn't been deposited yet. The other half, depending on their bank, sounds like Wells Fargo has not been a great bank to work with, have not been approved yet. But half of our panel that we just had have been approved, so their money is about to come in. You know, to give you an idea of the lobbying that's continuing, these rules are still being written. They just shoved all this down into the banks, right, without completely finalizing the rules. Well, in all this lobbying, guess who we forgot? Us. We went to apply, and C6s can't apply. It's like, mother. So I went back to the lobbyists and said, wait a second. Well, I guess there was some carve out for lobbying groups in DC that are just exclusively lobbying groups. And Congress said, well, we don't want you to get the money. But that's not us. We're primarily a trade group. We just do a little bit of lobbying. So that's being fixed in the rules today as we speak so that we can apply hopefully soon. But I thought after all this, you know, we found out we need the money too. I got 70 people I got to keep on payroll, you know. So, but yeah, this is changing day by day. And that's why these webinars are so important, because real people are sharing their experiences. These tips are then being, you know, spread out to the whole industry, and people are really navigating a lot quicker than they ever would on their own. So someone might say, if the banker tells you this, he's lying. Tell them that. And just all these tips are being shared. So really important right now.
Joe, if you or Mary could send me the link, I will be sure to share it with everybody. So anybody who wants to share something like that, just send it to me, and I'll shoot an email out to everybody I invited to this thing after the fact. And that way everyone will have the information. Or, I mean, the other thing you could do is you could just post it into the everyone chat right on here as well. Okay. And that way people have it.
Cool. Thank you for the opportunity.
Right.
Just to we got to take care of each other at this time for sure. There's no one else watching out for us except us. You know.
We appreciate having you know, people who are doing things like what you're doing. Tomorrow on shameless plug ahead. Tomorrow on Geezers of Gear, I actually have Isaac Rothwell, who's the guy who started that whole you know, petition that went around that everyone signed, and then he started the Live Event Coalition after that with PRG's support and a bunch of other companies' support. So he's on my podcast to talk about similar stuff tomorrow. So, you know, it's nice that there is a lot of support. Again, I don't know a lot of people who have actually received cash yet, just lots of talk of cash and promises and things. So.
Marcel, I can give an update. We got some news today. First of all, the SBA loaners, Small Business Administration loaners, just almost doubled the number of banks, community banks, credit unions that are able to do these loan processing. So I think that that was just within the last 3 hours. And also we know that in the Relief Act, every taxpayer is supposed to be receiving, what they're calling it, a rebate, which is, you know, a relief rebate, that the money that's supposed to be coming back to us, $1,200 per person, $2,400 per married couple, additional $500 per child. And the news is that will start being either sent directly to bank deposits, HCH transfer, on April 15th. So, you know, kind of the opposite of where we would normally be on April 15th, sending our money that direct. So that's one kind of breaking in terms of the actual cash. And the fact that businesses are receiving SBA approval numbers with the cash allocations to follow is kind of a matter of, you know, every 24-hour period we're checking on that. The other thing is that while we're doing this webinar on Friday, forgive us those who are Good Friday observant and whatnot, the webinar will be recorded and available to you later, is that starting Friday, April 10, is when sole proprietors, contractors, and gig workers can start applying for these grants, these forgivable grants and loans as well. So that's why we made it kind of timely. And, you know, starting today, if you have an existing relationship with a banker supporting your business or your personal banking or whatnot, and it's, you know, I would say log in and email to that person today and say, I am going to be interested in applying for this, even though they're not sure what this is, because we'll take you through that on Friday. To just because the, you know, when we were interpreting the rules of this law and trying to help our industry, we were playing bumper cars with the bankers and the accountants, because everybody was trying to duke it out with the rules that were coming down, and the forms to fill out were changing. So, you know, yeah, I call it a maddening, a hair-pulling experience, but, you know, there's resources there, and those resources that can bridge us to better times. So we really want to support you to get those resources. That's a preview for Friday, okay?
Yeah. I mean, you know, again, the challenge that I see is that everyone's talking about money. We know it's there. We know the government has approved it. We know all of these things, but I don't personally know of anyone who's actually gotten any of this money. And I'm not talking about the $1,200, because let's face it, everyone on this call makes more than $75,000 a year. Just kidding. But no, I mean, the PPP money that, you know, supposedly is being approved on a daily basis and everything else, I don't know of anybody who's gotten any or seen an approval.
Well,
Anyone here?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to admit it if you have received it here.
Well,
so.
again, we just came off the webinar, and three of the six had gotten approval, and
Oh,
now
wow.
we're waiting for the funding process to actually, the checks to start moving. All six had applied. All six had active interactions with their bankers, where either the grant application was complete, it was in process. They were getting notifications over the weekends from bankers. I mean,
So were we. Yeah, I mean, my company we applied with our bank on Thursday before it had even been released. And then Friday with the SBA, I think it was Friday when we actually got the application from the SBA to fill out, or from whoever it was. And then over the weekend, we got a couple of updates from our bank, but we've never actually got something that said, you've been approved, you'll get money in a few days. So
I'll jump in. I actually did get approved on Saturday. They sent us all the paperwork, and
wow,
it said within about a week or two we should see funds.
that's amazing.
So yeah,
I can't see who's talking, but I think it's Gumper.
yeah, that was me.
Okay, yeah, good for you, man. That's great.
I applied last Wednesday for the SBA Emergency Disaster Relief Fund, but I have yet to hear back from them at all. So I don't know what's going on with that. So if anyone else has any, you know, heard anything from those, that's that $10,000 straight up grant.
Yeah.
If anyone's heard anything about that, I'd be really glad to hear about it, because I saw, like, you were supposed to, if you applied Wednesday or before, you're supposed to reapply because they changed some things, and there was a button you were supposed to click, and I looked through the application and the button wasn't there when I applied for it. And so it's very confusing. I mean, as an independent contractor, you know, W-2, 1099 on both ends, it's just, navigating this thing is just so confusing right now.
Yeah.
So I'm using my friends, you know, this is very helpful. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Joe, for that. Any help?
Dave, what were you going to say?
I was going to chime in for a second, if I may.
Go.
So earlier today on another webinar, Ami Kasari writes for Inc. magazine, and he's a money guy. Basically, he said the new news today was the $10,000 advance has now been changed to $1,000 per employee. So that's a change. So if you only have 2 employees, then $2,000 would be the limit. The other thing that was discussed in that was that the funding for the EIDL is so much smaller than the PPP. The PPP has like 369 billion and maybe more funds to happen. But the EIDL only has 10 billion so far.
Peasants. So, you know, one thing I will announce, and I'm not bragging, but we applied very early for something in Florida that was called a disaster bridge loan. And it is basically, it's 1 year interest free, and then you've got up to 4 years after that to pay for it. The challenge is it's only $50,000. And I know for some businesses that's life changing. For ours, you know, it was a drop in the bucket really, but it's actually already been funded. So the money was deposited into our account a couple days ago. And so that was nice. I mean, that happened relatively quickly by SBA standards. It happened in lightning speed time. So yeah, I mean, you know, the good news is there is money out there. The bad news is it's really hard to get. And, you know, I know talking with, I think it was Featherstone earlier today or yesterday, you know, his concept is basically, we're taxpayers, you have our account numbers, just deposit the damn money already. And there's some logic to that, because when you start looking at all of the, you know, potential for just, you know, bad things to happen, there's just as much corruption doing it the way that they're doing it now as if they were just to deposit it into taxpayer accounts instantly. And, you know, even this SBA money and stuff, you're putting slow, lethargic, you know, tired old companies in the middle of us and funding. So it's kind of crappy. But yeah. One of the other things I wanted to mention, so I don't know if you guys have amazing examples of things that people are doing and stuff, and I don't want to make Dearson a pop star again, but his tours of Las Vegas are incredible. If any of you haven't seen Patrick's you know, Las Vegas deal that he's doing almost every day, and now his new YouTube videos are freaking hilarious. But go see it. It's worth watching. You know, again, it breaks up the stupidity of our day. Cosmo with his daily, you know, sunset. And I see Cosmo's on here. Thanks for joining us, Cosmo. Nice to see you. But, you know, those things are awesome. And so one of the things coming up is on Sunday. I don't know if anybody's seen this, but Andrea Bocelli is doing a concert from Duomo in Milan with no people there. So an empty Duomo with Andrea Bocelli singing for Easter. I think it's at like 1 o'clock Eastern time. So, you know, I plan to log in and find that one. I think that'll be pretty cool. Anything else you guys know about?
Well, you know, I have a question for the group here, actually. Does anybody have anything positive and exciting to report and things
Andrea
like
Bocelli's
light at the end of the tunnel?
positive and exciting, Aaron.
I was able to find toilet paper at the grocery store today.
That's cool.
I still have plenty of wine.
I'm not out of
You
wine.
need me to ship you some toilet paper?
No, I'm good on that. I got a bidet.
I'm in the boonies now. Yep, plenty of toilet paper down here.
I got a gallon of hand sanitizer from Froggy's Fog.
I got one of those too. That's amazing that they did that. It stinks though. It doesn't smell very good.
It's
some essential oil you can add to it, and
yeah, that's what I did, because that stuff, I put it on my hands and went, what the hell? It almost smelled like you were using it as toilet paper.
Yeah, I put mine in a little mixer and it works great.
I want to share something that
Go ahead.
I want to share something from the NAM Foundation side. We've been doing a lot of webinars for online learning, music learning and teaching. And that community is just on fire. And it's we're having another one tomorrow, which is ensembles. You know, how do you maintain the energy and the excitement of a training ensemble when people can't meet, right? Yeah. There's a lot of innovation and ingenuity and people connection and energy. Our very first webinar on this, we had 16,000 registrants that wanted to find out about. And we also, the second one we did was organizations and music businesses with lessons that literally pivoted within 24 hours to do online lessons. And so they're you know, people are continuing to pay for lessons, and people are teaching, and you know, there's just a tremendous amount of creativity and energy going on out there. It just, you know, it's coming down the pike when we're all back together again. Just
That's very cool. I
plunge
love
it in.
that. I love that. I mean, there are some things that don't transfer as well online. You know, I know some businesses that have tried to move online and it hasn't gone so well, but certainly music education. I mean, there's a music retail store down the street from me that moved all their lessons online very, very quickly, and they're doing great. So, you know, one of the things I saw yesterday, Mary, just to speak about music again for a second, is I have a friend of mine who's a very good guitar player in Calgary, Canada, called Reed Shimazawa. He's played in club bands. I used to sell him guitars when I was in music retail friggin' almost 40 years ago. And so Reed Shimazawa sent out a tune to anybody who wanted it on Facebook. Anybody who wanted this little piece of music, he sent it out to them. And each of these guitar players had to record themselves playing a solo on top of this piece of music that Reed created and sent out to them. And then it just became this really long chain of this song over and over again with like 60 or 70 different guitar players playing their solo on top of it. Was unbelievable. So good. You know, that stuff I love seeing. Cosmo, where are you going?
I'm going back home.
Where were you?
I had to go to the grocery store.
Oh, did you get any toilet paper?
Fortunately, I don't need it, but they don't have it anyway, so.
It's unbelievable. Where is all the toilet paper? That's what I want to know.
It's hoarded in
Toilet
people's
paper,
garages.
soup.
What's that?
They don't have any soup either. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Not that I eat canned soup. I just go in and see what they don't have. But they have everything else picking back up pretty good.
Yeah.
All the toilet paper is in a freighter off the coast of China.
So Ray Ziegler, I understand you're doing something interesting. Are you here somewhere still?
Yeah, we just got requested to deploy a bunch of lights for tomorrow night for the night out across the nation for the first responders. So I don't know if anybody else in the group is getting requests for that, but we'll be out tomorrow night with searchlights and spots and stuff like that over New Orleans.
Is it a paid gig or is it a volunteer kind of thing?
We're trying to beg the city to give us some money. The city's broke, so I went through some council members to try and do some sideways money. So I think there's going to be some money involved, but it won't be our normal rate.
Sideways money coming out of the city of New Orleans. That is shocking to me.
Yeah, don't record that.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. Exactly.
Ray, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little button that says recording.
Hey, Ray, listen, it's going to be like on the nightly news with Lester Holt tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get some publicity out of it, if nothing else. Maybe there's no money, but maybe we get a little publicity out of it.
Yeah. You guys are a quiet bunch today. I mean, we actually have 3 pages of people this time, and everybody's like a bunch of voyeurs. How about Heather Bush? What do you got to say? This is you're a first timer, first time, long time. What do you got to say?
I am. No, it's great to be here. It's great to see everyone. And that's one of the things I think we all miss, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't remember the round bar being so damn quiet.
Well, there's not a lot of jobs to talk about at the moment.
Yeah, it's true.
People are
The circle bar. Circle bar.
Yeah.
That's actually a good question. If there's an LDI next time in Vegas, where's everybody going to stay? Let's make that decision today.
Patrick's house.
The Cosmo's pretty nice, I have to say.
That's for sure.
I'm voting for the Cosmo.
Yeah, Marcel.
I've heard that they are keeping the Circle Bar at Virgin, so we might be able to just re-round table over at Circle Bar Virgin instead of Hard Rock. I don't know.
That works.
I don't know. It just doesn't have the same ring to it. Hard Rock.
It's going to be
Virgin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to let you in.
I'm sure it'll be open by then. The one thing that hasn't stopped around Las Vegas is construction. That they're considering quite essential. So
And that's amazing that they haven't shut that off yet.
Oh, our school system's in shambles, and that's completely shut down. But goddamn, this stadium is going up mighty fast.
Same in Los Angeles. They're still building the stadium in LA.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Right next to the Forum there. It's
Yeah,
it's-
they got to.
Mental business.
That's because the penalty clause in the contract had no virus language.
Yeah, it's cheaper to build it than to stop.
True.
Well,
Yeah.
plus you have a full-on burial site on
Garth
property.
Brooks still the first group at the stadium? I say, is Garth Brooks still the opening act at the
Yeah.
stadium?
Yeah, he'll be opening it.
No audience.
Pat, this is Greg Jones, man, and I had a question. I heard it on NPR that they said keep an eye on Vegas. That some believe Vegas will be a barometer to the rest of the country, meaning because just how they desperately with gaming and everything else. What are your thoughts to that? Do you think that if we keep our eye on Vegas and we see how are they opening up showrooms when what are their decision factors in opening up a showroom or a casino floor? What are your thoughts?
I was thinking the same thing of Disney as well.
Yeah, I think in both instances you're discussing. Well, certainly for the state of Nevada, it's so outrageously critical in terms of money. You can say what you want. At the end of the day, almost all the decisions about this whole thing have been driven by how they will affect areas economically, stock market or regional locations. In the state of Nevada, we have no state tax. One of the things I'm convinced of is that that's maybe going to go away within the next few years if this is that detrimental, because they're going to have to look at it as finding some other source of revenue. So they have a very vested interest in getting these casinos back up and running as quickly as possible, because that is what funds these state taxes for the most part. These casinos pay for all of that. Start shifting things toward their alternative, just going back to the people, the structured way of having state tax, to drive out so much business out of this state that it will ultimately be a worse move in the long term.
Yeah, but I heard about a week ago, that Mandalay Bay wasn't taking deposits for December.
A lot of them they're not taking any future bookings at all right now. And I think that a lot of that has to do with just their total gun shine of the whole thing. And to keep stuff off the books. They want to look as desperate as possible. Not that they don't already, but particularly when you're a major corporation and you're making plays like shelling out a $32 million golden parachute, your CEO, whose contract specifically states that doesn't have to happen, to allow him to leave and go work for the local government. Like that's a really weird move, and it's not one that's popular, particularly to your shareholders when that happens. But of course, you look into it, it's a play for the future for them, because the more they get this guy involved in politics, the better it'll pay off for them 10, 20 years down the road. So there's a lot of speculation and conspiratorial theory in that regard. But at the end of the day,
I had
get up and running, or it doesn't support itself.
No, I mean, we got to get back. But I had Trez Thomas from Live Nation on the podcast a couple days ago. And for those of you who didn't hear it, some very interesting stuff just from Live Nation on when they're looking at getting back to work, what they think is going to come back to work first, what some of the challenges are. They said, he said on his own, without quoting Live Nation or anything, that, there was a lot of good things coming from insurance companies, that basically they were willing to start writing policies in the relative near future, not in May, obviously, but that a lot of festival shows were probably going to be some of the first ones to come back, especially in countries that were not so horribly impacted by this virus, or in states that weren't so badly impacted by the virus. And so, I mean, he had some positive things to say. So
Hey, Marcel, I took the liberty to invite my friend. I don't know if he's still on, Matt Granger. And if maybe want to pose that question, Matt, how are you? Are you still here? Oh, he's away from his desk. We'll wait and see if he jumps back. But maybe we'll.
What, he typed a question?
No. He's there, but he stepped away from his. Maybe go get a beer or something. But we'll wait. He's a tour accountant. And a friend of mine, so I asked them to join on. I figured you guys may have some questions to come from a giant like AEG.
Oh, he's Bieber's guy, right?
Yeah, he's been out with Bieber for many years and quite a few other big acts, but he's full-time with AEG.
Yeah, that'd be great to hear, for sure.
I mean, companies like Live Nation and AEG have got to be just hurting to get shows back on the road. I mean, they've advanced paid acts to play for the year 2020 and 2021. So if the longer acts aren't on the road, the more money that's out of their pockets that they can't get back in it. So unfortunately, I think we're stuck on what the state legislation is, not necessarily what the artist management is at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, also there's that Billboard article that came out. I don't know if anyone read it. I think it was out. Somebody posted in this group chat. It's kind of how AEG and Live Nation are going to kind of shape, like totally change the way that artists get paid and the structure. And I don't know how other LDs feel about this, but do you feel that our rates are going to kind of like, how from 2008 to up till now, our rates kept going up and things looked very successful for us. But it seems like everything is going to kind of reset. We're going to have to build that again. Does anyone else feel that way?
And everything's supply and demand, right? So depending how much the demand is when we all come back, that will be the determining factor of, whether you can set your rates. If everybody's trying to jam twice as much stuff into 1 year, everybody's going to have a lot more power to control what their rates are.
Sir.
Yeah, Chris, let's hope that that's the case, right? Economics 101.
Doing all right. How are you?
Supply is low and demand is high, which raises pricing. And that goes for every single person on this call, whether they're a manufacturer or they're a designer.
Oh, it does. There's no doubt that it does. But, I think we're really going to see everybody next year. I really think the big comeback's going to be next year. I think we're going to have maybe a busy fall if they let us, but next year is going to be your crazy year because everybody wants to come back and do stuff.
I think personally, all you guys are going to be slammed busy. I think, Matt, what you were saying about rates, it's a real concern. I'm not downplaying your concern, but this industry and all of you rebounded from 9/11, you rebounded from 2008, you'll rebound from this. The problem is this isn't going to just be a switch off, switch on kind of thing. I think it's going to have to, people aren't going to be allowed to at first, and then eventually they'll be allowed to convene into larger groups, but they're going to be a little uncomfortable with it. I had a suggestion on one of the podcasts we did the other day, which was to mix like some sort of a remedy drug for this COVID-19, mix it with Molly and push it out through the dealers at the shows. This to me, you've already got your distribution solved. You've got all these problems solved, right? Stupid, but.
You're not going to post this as a podcast, are you? I don't think this is a good idea. You're implicating yourself there.
I think it's a fantastic idea, and anything we can do to up the price of my Molly is perfect for that.
Exactly. See?
Hey, Marcel, Matt.
Governmental support.
Hey, Granger, you there?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
Hey, so you've got an audience of a lot of production professionals, probably people you've worked with or bumped into on a load in or load out.
I know a few of the people on the call.
Yeah, what's you want to give AEG stance, man, and we're gonna hold you to it. Let's put these guys back to fucking work already.
Don't quote me, but like you said, everything's pushing to 21. I think there might be a few things that end up at the fourth quarter. But everything on our end that's large is moving to 21. Okay. Rage, Bieber, Stones, Roger Waters, blah, 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 blah. They're all going to 21.
Well, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be a good fourth quarter. I mean, we got ones that have been rerouted multiple times. Originally, I was on Sturgill, and that was going to go to April, and now it doesn't look like it's going to go until October. Everything's being renegotiated too. It's a tough sell.
In what
Who
way?
do who do we have on the call that's that works more primarily in the theatrical world? I see Jason's here, is someone I've known for a while, but you know, with this being a virus that affects the aged more than the youthful, is this going to have a more of an impact on the theatrical regional Broadway?
I heard today Broadway is July 7th. They pushed it back to July 7th to reopen Broadway. I don't know.
Yeah, here in New York, they're every day they're playing it by ear. Like every day we hear a new move. Regional theaters that I also do shows in, they right now are just trying to raise money to cover their costs to hopefully open next year, or next season. So it's a scary thing because there are a lot of these smaller regional theaters that live season to season, you know, because the money isn't there anymore. And
the official word today was Broadway League is shuttering till June 7th.
June 7th. Sorry, I said July 7th.
Yep. No, it's just throwing that correction.
But do you think you're going to have the patrons that want to attend to these events if they're of a certain age demographic?
I feel like everyone's a little gun shy. I think theater to corporates to everyone is just going to be gun shy. Like I was saying to some friends on a Skype call earlier, it's like we used to just, you know, how many times you touched a surface and touched your face or gave a friend a hug or just were so close with a bunch of punters in front of house. And now it's going to be a totally different situation. I feel like this social distancing has changed dynamics for a very long
Yeah.
Could be new merch, face mask for every artist. Like, you know, for every band you go see, you get a face mask.
Look, I'm banking on the
I
fact
did
that
see
everybody.
that on one of the websites. They were doing branded face masks.
Yeah. So what's already set up for it? So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
It'd have to
banking
be a
all of the
giveaway,
young kids
but,
that are so tired of being cooped up because they're so used to being around people that they don't care what's going on. They're going to go out if they're allowed to go out, and they're going to party, and they're going to get Patrick's Molly, and they're going to enjoy a good time. So I'm all hopeful for that, mainly for Patrick. But
I think that as soon as the opportunity's there, this is Mark Fennell, by the way, that the floodgates are going to open for the young kids anyway, because they don't think this affects them to begin with. And once they get the opportunity to go see shows, they're out. They're gone.
I agree.
Corporates too.
I don't think corporate's going to come back I think that's going to take a long time to ramp back up. I think Broadway, because like you're saying, Aaron, older demographic, that may take a little while to ramp up. But the kids are going to go for this.
Yeah,
I mean, what about
Mark, though, is that the kids don't get to make that decision because it's, you know,
Yeah,
it's
once
the
they
insurance companies and the venues and the promoters and, you know, like we just heard a little while ago here.
I mean, what are we going to do about, you know, we're taking cuts, pay cuts. Are people going to have the money to spend $100 on a ticket, which is nowadays a pretty low ticket? You know, market's in the shitter.
I mean, I've found that people will spend money for entertainment that they don't have.
I agree with you.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I think the
Chuck nails it on that. People spend.
It doesn't matter. They're going to spend that money because they're tired of being at home and watching concerts on their computer. They want to get out as soon as the government lets them get, you know, open some doors. They're going to be there with money in hand.
Don't get me wrong. Couch tour sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, it's an interesting question. You know, it's statement, Mark, that you say, you know, as soon as, you know, the government opens the doors, what legally do you think that regulations are the venues or the promoters going to put in place as far as safety precautions for the touring crew, the artists? Are we going to see that change? The bus companies that have to fumigate their buses every day, and how are we going to keep the spread of this contained from our touring crew?
I think by the time we're touring, I don't think that's such a big issue. Like that's what I think.
There's been talk of seating every other seat in a venue. How the hell do you do that?
Yeah, I've heard that one a whole bunch.
Every other seat on a plane, that's doable, but every other seat at Staples Center?
Yeah.
Where do you where's your gross?
Nice
We've
and
got-
awkward.
Well, I was gonna say we've got some touring LDs here, Tess and Sooner and Matt, and I mean, there's a bunch of. Are you guys worried about going back on the road in June or July? Like, where's y'all's head on this?
I mean, Hoping that by have- then we're good.
Yeah, I mean, I have autoimmune issues. I mean, I'm constantly kind of like germaphobed anyway. So for me, it's just a fine line between fear and being practical. So like I'm used to wiping down surfaces and washing my hands frequently. I think there's going to be more of an awareness for everyone else to do the same, but there's still going to be kennel cough. You know, like we're all going to get sick regardless of something.
Kennel cough. I like that. I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think festivals will be weirder with everyone sharing gear.
Hey everybody, Jason Bullock here. Nice to see a lot of you.
Hey, Jason.
I hope everybody's healthy and well.
I can't find which page you're on. I want to see the hair.
His hair is
not blue.
Now it's all.
Oh,
now
there he
it's all-
is.
Eddie Van Halen.
There he is.
Yeah, nice to see a lot of you guys. It's been a long time across
And
the
you
board
as
for a
well.
lot of you. I hope everybody's healthy and well. And of course, all of us are fucked by this entire mess. But you know,
Yes, that we are.
it's nice to see all of you guys.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I think the challenge isn't necessarily like Mark, you make a good point, and I agree with you. You know, one thing I've always noticed, like I remember Mexico, I think their peso had just been knocked down again, and they were just in miserable depression, which they pretty much live in most of the time. And Madonna announced a show in Mexico. This was probably 15, 20 years ago. Madonna announced a show in Mexico, and it was like 125,000 people, I think. And it sold out instantly, like within a couple days. So they don't have money for food or housing or anything else, but they have money to go to a show. And that seems to be, you know, the youth mentality. And it was when I was a kid, I know that. You know, I mean,
Especially after they've been cooped up for 3 or 4 or 5 or
well,
6
yeah,
months.
add that.
Everybody's been shitting on the millennials for years, and now we're all like, please come and spend the money you don't have.
That's funny.
So has anybody heard about the meetings with Irving Azoff and some of the other venues about having sanitization crews come in and sanitizing all of the venues and specific companies that are doing all these different major arenas? Have you guys heard about this alleged meeting that's been happening? It was in Variety today, or maybe it was yesterday, but it seems like that there's been some discussion about, you know, really kind of delousing the place in between concerts and shows and events, and it seems like there's already discussions and plans, but I'm really interested to see how they're going to pull that off, and is it really going to make much of a difference? I mean, it doesn't matter what's lingering in the air when you start putting, you know, 10 to 18 or 20,000 people all in the same room. You're back at square one.
Yeah.
Yep. And here's another interesting thing. How do you do the egress and getting out of the arena when you put 25,000 people in there? Fine. You want to do social distancing, you leave spaces between seats, that's fine. But then you're gonna have to stagger people walking in and walking out to actually maintain.
It's going to be
that
just
kind
like
of
Wuhan right now, where they're all, you know, going around and going back and being tourists and riding the trains. I mean, it's like life hasn't changed. And
Wuhan's a great test right now for us. We'll see if what
Yeah.
happens there for sure.
If it all bounces
they're
back,
going
or
to have a
doesn't.
second wave. They're definitely going to have a second wave of this. That's for sure.
I concur with your opinion in that.
I mean, it's either that or they hand out face masks at the door. You know, I mean, face masks and hand gloves.
But is it too late at that point?
I think it's going to be like TSA in the airport. Like, how safe does TSA make you guys actually feel? I think it's going to be the same thing in the show element. You're going to get all this extra protection that's not really protection, and
well, hundreds of heat scanners. You know, like they have that in China. You know, anywhere you go where there's a crowd, they're always taking your temperature, and if you've got a high temperature, boom, you're taken out of the line. And
I know I saw a blog post about Disney potentially doing that when they come back online.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had seen the same thing.
Yeah, but then somebody's going to sue Disney for being singled out because they had a fever that wasn't related to COVID or whatever. I mean, this is just a shit show no matter.
Well, yeah, that's the
But
legitimacy.
as far as I'm concerned with that, you should be staying your ass at home anyway. So if you're sick, don't go to the park.
It's the asymptomatic people that they look concerned.
I mean, but yeah, but you
like
also
like you don't mean to be a carrier, but you might be and you don't know it. Until everybody gets an effective test, how can we tell? You know, they want to turn sports back on. That's great. You're gonna have to test every person who's in the arena, even with no crowd. You're still gonna have to test every single person who is on the team, all the support staff, all the coaches. And if you have a fever, you're out. I mean, that's the reality we're looking at right now, which is
or single islands are going to start becoming popular like UFC now.
Yeah.
I heard that Dana White's got like some private island that he's going to host the UFC fights from for the next couple of months.
Yeah.
And it'll be the camera people and the fighters, and that's it.
Yeah, but he can't get the main fighter over. He can't get the what's his name from Russia, Khabib, because he can't travel or something. I don't know. So he's the champion. He's the one that's the main draw on this fight coming up next week or whatever. But he can't come over, so it's pretty crazy. Thank you, Mark. Mark's leaving, so
bye, Mark.
We appreciate your input.
Who wants to help me design the thermal display clothing line?
For which
a mood ring
application
that goes on your forehead, you know, a piece of swag.
We're all going to be wearing them.
Yeah.
Come on, it'll be
a whole new merchandising industry there.
It'll be.
I feel like Pixmob is already on that.
Yeah, I saw that today. I was gonna say that.
It'll be
Pixmob
those-
hasn't watched.
It'll be those-
Or
will be back.
GPS tracking on your phone so that when they know you've been in contact with somebody.
Yeah. Well, let me ask a question though. How would any of you feel if, you know, Justin Bieber called up tomorrow and said, we're going on the road, you know, we've got the green light, the promoter's going to put us out there, the venues have agreed. Are any of you saying, no, I'm not ready to tour?
At this point, hell yeah, I'm going.
I'm going.
Hell yeah. Let's go on the road. Let's look like Bubble Boy, but you're going.
I can tell you for a fact it's moving to 21.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean necessarily. I just picked on you because you happen to be here, but.
And I'm going on that tour.
By the way, I would just like to say one thing. John Wiseman jinxed it last week. He promised, he goes, you watch, Justin Bieber will be touring June 15th of this year. And like that afternoon, it was announced that he was postponing the tour. So whatever Wiseman says, it automatically is
I
jinxed.
think Wiseman has like 3 ex-wives, so he's been wrong before. He has been wrong before.
I want to know whoever believed Wiseman to begin with, ever.
I did.
Women.
Too hopeful, so obviously everybody's kind of like waking up to the reality of waves and, you know, seasonality and all that stuff. So it's a shot in the arm when you want to just be hopeful that everything's going to come back to normal. But, you know, we've discussed so many news bits that are leaking here and there, and it's just, yeah. And it's
What about movies? What about movies?
Well, that's the thing. I thought, you know, by diversing my portfolio, as they say, and being able to work in the entertainment industry and the live side and the movie side, Hollywood is shut down, and Hollywood is at the mercy of local governments first. So here in LA, the studios have to look at Mayor Garcetti first and foremost for his opinion, and of course our governor, Gavin Newsom. And then eventually when the studios are given the go-ahead, then they have to come up with a plan, and I can tell what's going to happen. We're going to have to drive to the crew parking lot. Our temperature is going to be taken. We're going to have this little prick test on our finger, and we're going to wait in the car for about 15 minutes, and then our phone's going to give us the go or no. They're going to say, sorry, you're not covered today. You might be you know, jeopardizing the health of the cast and crew, so you got to go home.
But what are you hearing as far as when movies are going to start? You know, has anyone said, yeah, by June 15th, we're going to be back?
No, it's impossible to determine dates at this point because, well, there's one thing about California that's starting to come out, and it's because it looks like China, of course, was not really truthful with when this broke out.
No.
It's starting to It's starting to pull back as far as November, from what I heard, November last year, when certain situations, and then we had, California has the most influx of Chinese visitors in the US because it's a quick direct flight to LA, supposedly 8,000 people.
You know what's funny? We got an order today on GearSource from China, first one in a couple of months, and I had mixed feelings about it. Yes, I took the money because you have to, but the thing is like, yeah, okay, so you guys are back in business, but we're all screwed over here. But
exactly.
they're not back to normal yet, but they're definitely very close. I mean, the weird thing, like my Singapore office just. They told me they just closed schools and restaurants yesterday, Tuesday, in Singapore.
I mean, but Marcel, is it going to be that bounce back? The same thing that everybody is now looking at Wuhan now that they lifted the 97-day quarantine they had and everything else. I mean, I live in Long Island, so they just closed our schools till the 29th of April.
Yeah.
Like we're done. We're shut down, and they've been doing it every 2 weeks across the board. And of course, what are you going to do? Are they going to open up Wuhan, and all of a sudden we're going to see, as he was saying, that all of a sudden there's going to be another spike in cases, and we're going to have to do this all again? Is this going to be like 2 or 3 rotations to get it out of everybody's system?
Yeah, I mean, I like to be on the positive and think no. Like I keep thinking that there's a lot of really smart people out there who are going to come up with miracle drugs. I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about private companies, private individuals who are going to come up with some answers to this, because there's a lot of money to be made
and Big Pharma is going to shut it.
I think this is all just really speculation until we have a real understanding of immunity, which they don't have yet.
That's the issue.
And until there's, like Benoit was saying, that rapid testing is viable. Yes. We're going to have to get past those 2 hurdles before anybody can really plan anything, in my opinion.
Yeah, today there was a news bit that came out that the Stanford School of Medicine did a test in Northern California with 3,200 people, and it's the new antibody test to find out if California had what's called herd immunity, where we didn't know about this, and a lot of folks were getting sick around before Christmas time, through Christmas time, and early January. And somehow it passed around California at a lower level. And then that's why now, in a state of 40 million people, we have nowhere the numbers of cases and deaths, as opposed to on the other side of the country, for example, in New York, where they have about half the population and they have such a spike in both cases and deaths. So they're hopeful that they're going to find out that herd immunity might have worked out without us even knowing. So everybody's waiting for this thing where we could all find out if we're immune or not in this situation.
But I got to tell you, I live in LA too, and I hope the herd immunity thing is true, but I really hope that people still stay home, because I sure do like the 405 to myself. Brings tears to my eyes every time I drive on it.
Well, we also supposedly have the best air quality in the world right now in Los Angeles.
1980. I saw that same right.
Who would have believed?
Can you imagine that? It's crazy. Well, for sure, for me, I mean, it'd be great to know if I'm immune to it, because then I would be first in line to go back to work at a TV show or a movie.
I am in the same boat with you, man.
The testing is going to be
Did any of you guys see that article on, I believe it was Hong Kong, and how they've only had a couple of deaths and 1,000 cases or something like that? It's kind of interesting, because they did like that military lockdown style thing, and they have.
Well, they really didn't though. Hong Kong closed their nightclubs last Friday or last Thursday. They didn't even close nightclubs and bars until last week. So I don't know how locked down Hong Kong was. I just don't think
they only have they don't have that many deaths and that many cases of it right now, which is kind of interesting.
Well, the population of Hong Kong, they eat better than Americans. We're not really a healthy society, so I feel like that's why we're getting it a little bit worse.
Well, and they wear masks when they're sick and stuff. Like they do it early.
Oh, that's a social norm, and I think that's something that for the next year is going to have to become a social norm. Else, we're going to have flare-ups that are going to keep on canceling stuff last minute, left and right.
I think you are absolutely correct.
Yeah. Crazy.
Guess I should get on those branded face masks.
I'm surprised every company in our industry doesn't already have swag face masks. You know that.
I bought a carbon.
I believe Showcats had bandanas a number of years ago. I got to see what our stock is.
Upstaging is making like 50 or 100,000 face masks for the state of Illinois and all those guys.
I still have my Showcat bandana face mask. Rip that sucker out.
The Ryman has been giving away bandanas with their branding on it for the last couple of years.
And I think I have a Roby bandana somewhere in the closet.
So are we all pretty much agreeing that we're not going to be doing much of anything until, I guess, fall, September, October, or?
I feel August at earliest, but September, October is probably more accurate.
I guess the other question is small club versus arena amphitheater. Like, you think they're going to try to ease in doing like your 1,000 cap, 2,000 caps, like Brooklyn Steel or House of Blueses?
I think the clubs are going to want to open as quick as possible. They're going to need the money faster than the bigger arena.
I hate to infiltrate with positivity. However, you know, I had this conversation this morning with a friend of mine from Canada. It wasn't long ago that we were talking about between 1.2 and 2 million dead people in this country. And then it went to 240,000. And I don't know if anybody saw today, but they're now talking about between 70 and 80,000.
Yeah. Hey, sales 101, overpromise, underdeliver. Oh wait, no, reverse that.
If that keeps dropping like that, we're going to be back to work a little bit sooner. Not necessarily on, you know, full on Justin Bieber tours or anything, but events and possibly a, you know, a festival or whatever, especially in states. And I'm going to say Iowa, because I have no idea if Iowa has a high or a low number.
Well, Marcel, can I say something here? Because back in 2003, we had the SARS benefit show. Remember the SARS, and it was in Toronto.
I do.
And I was with AC/DC. The Stones headlined it. I mean, it was this big thing. And the SARS, at the end of the day, wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be, and it wasn't nearly as bad as this one is. But the whole point of that show was to show that Toronto was back. They were open for business and open for tourists, and that was the whole reason for that show. So I think it's going to be similar to that on a large scale, you know, world scale. That, you know, we're back, and I win, but I think it's going to come screaming back for that same reason the SARS show did.
I agree with you, Cosmo, 200%. And by the way, Cosmo, Brian Caston said to say hello.
Give him my regards.
Indeed. But I completely agree with you that when everything bounces back, it's going to be, we're all going to be overburied trying to get all this done because it's all of a sudden going to be dropped. But now here's an interesting thought that I had the other day was that, all right, so should for the early shows, should we just put together festivals to do like, you know, 8 or 10 or 12 major cities in each country? Or just in the U.S., for example, and say, all right, so everybody, you know, we do a festival tour, Live Nation sponsors it, and it's $20 a ticket for everybody, everywhere. You know what I mean? First come, first serve, because nobody has money right now. But that would be a way to fill the seats. And even if you had to do social distancing of 2 seats per group, if you do that at an arena, you're still putting in 10, 12,000 people. You know, you put in fucking 3 trusses of lights, and the artists are going to come back to do it just so they can get back in the groove. And the people, again, at that price range, it'd be great. It would make Live Nation look like a hero across the board. It would start to restart our industry. And again, that's just my crazy ideas and 2 cents.
No, we talked about this last week, I think, too. I mean, just bringing it up, like, you know, that the agencies and the artists and you know, between Ticketmaster and the agents and management all take a little bit of a pay cut to sort of reboot the people that have supported them for that long. And whether that really happens or not, who knows? Of course not the designers. We want to make sure the designers get their full rate, and all of the production managers and all of the tour managers, you know, that are on this call as well. We would also get our full rate. Not me, but, you know, all of us as a group.
I think what we're going to see is, instead of, like, I think right now we're assuming the news is going to keep getting worse. But I think it's actually going to go the opposite direction. I think we're going to start with, okay, we can do this. You know, here's this little show that we can do in August. And then it's going to be, well, you know what? Things have gotten a little bit better. So maybe now we can do this. And then now we can do this. I mean,
dip the toe in the water.
Right now, and you know, without making any political statements or anything, the tail has been wagging the dog. You know, the health community has been saying, close everything. And because that's what they're supposed to say, right? But then somewhere, you know, around that, there's a logical answer which says, close a lot of stuff, but then safely do some of these things over here. And that's what we're going to end up doing. And then I think those are going to broaden as time goes on. That's
now, Marcel,
yes, sir.
You being from being from the salesman side of the thing, would it be a good idea? No, I don't mean that in a rude way. I mean that from your, okay, would it be a good idea? Because now some of the lighting companies are having times to do R&D on shit that they couldn't show at LDI or anything else. Would it be a good idea for Martin or Roby or somebody to partner with Live Nation and say, hey, let's put together a thing that's, 5 bands. Here's our 50 new lights, and do it as one group thing together, because we'll split the cost. You guys do lights at a reduced rate. You do it in 8 cities, and you're done.
Oh, I'm sure they can put ticket buyers on a plan as well. See the Rolling Stones for 3 easy payments of this. So, a payment plan for the ticket buyers. Somebody needs, to get creative here.
And if it's the Stones, you might need the SBA behind that, so it'll be 23 equal payments of, whatever.
For your approval.
SBA-backed loans for a Stones ticket, right?
I was just saying that from the perspective of, for the manufacturers who have time right now, who are developing new equipment, developing new gear, should they use these new festivals and the first shows that come back as demo platforms for new equipment, because we don't have LDI.
Yeah, but Jason, what does that solve though? Because the rental companies need to be involved.
No, it doesn't solve. It's to sell it. It's to sell it to the rental companies. It's to use
the rental companies have nothing. Our business isn't going to help us buy lights. Rental companies have a warehouse full of gear, a shop full of gear, right? So nothing's out. So I understand what you're saying, Jason. I just don't know that there's a huge benefit there. Like, instead, you want people to give money to make things happen. And, one thing I know manufacturers don't have a lot of right now is money, because it has been a brutal few months, right? So,
sadly, I'm expecting to be using a lot of old shit for a long time.
I think a lot of us are.
Isn't that what we all?
XBs.
I have a question regarding when we start getting back to work. I have a feeling that you're going to see a lot of the regional companies, production companies, lighting, audio, video, 360 companies, probably fairly busy. I'm not quite sure we're going to come up with these big mega tours right away. Like, we're hearing that it's all going to kind of, push to 2021. There's going to be things that can happen faster than these big mega tours. And when we do get back, I feel that the regional companies are going to benefit the most on the initial onset. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, being that regional company, I can tell you, I've talked to my local houses, and we're all looking at September, that we can stay liquid till September. Once September hits, I mean, and I'm not factoring in grants and loans, because those are still out there. A lot of us haven't gotten approved, and the actual amounts have differed from company to company. But that's where I feel where the big dogs they are the leaders, and they have to lead by making it okay to do it. Because when you get on the smaller scale, like the municipalities that do the outdoor, like I'm in Southwest Florida, it's a lot of outdoor shows and, benefits and stuff like that. They need that 0.2 reference to say, hey, the big boys are doing it. They're doing it safely. Let us partner with you. We're going to take the same tax that are being dictated down by the big boys to make sure that your smaller events are safe. But without that big push, we're going to be fighting with our clients to make stuff go. And that's just the way it is right now with everybody that I'm talking to that's on the smaller regional production house level. Because I'm a 360 company, and I got all my cancellations in 2 days. Like, it didn't spread out. It was just gone.
What are you doing?
I've got a question for you, Corey. Are you finding that some people are talking to you about stuff in the fall and beyond, or is it kind of just ghost right now and nobody's been talking about future shows?
The business leaders that actually have some sense are still in postpone mode. They're still, very optimistic. No, we're going to push forward. We'll just delay it out. Everybody else, though, it's a sheep mentality, and if nobody's leading the herd, they're going to sit back in the cut, and until somebody makes the initial push, down in my area, nobody wants to really put the leg out because there's so much to lose. And especially our population is like, I think I read the statistic. I think in Florida, we're 60% of our population is like over, 55, and up. So that's a lot to deal with.
No, I mean, for us in LA, I mean, we do touring and we do corporate, and, the corporate side of it is just crickets. I mean, everybody wants to do it, but nobody's talking about anything future. It's all kind of wait and see. And there's been a little bit of talk about stuff in October and November, but, right now it's like, who knows? I mean, they all just, nobody wants to commit to anything because they all think that it's going to keep getting pushed further and further out. And now we're starting to hear some rumbles of 2021 for stuff that was supposed to happen this year.
Well, on the corporate side, from my big corporate, because we do nationwide work, and the bit that I can get out is, it kind of goes back to what I said last week, is it's optics. Like, how does it look? How does it look for the company? And that's where you need those pushes, because you need that person to sit there and go, well, hey, they're doing it. Our company, we only hire top-notch vendors, and they're following the same protocols that the big boys are using, but that has to be out, like press releases, all that stuff. Everything that we're doing on our side has to be bullet pointed, so everybody knows that we don't, not that we take anything lightly, but your random friend that you meet at a bar has no idea. I open my mouth and it's the Corey phone. It's wah, 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 wah. They don't know what we do. They don't know that everything that goes on behind it. And it's daunting. It's terrifying, actually.
Yeah, we have some German automaker clients, and they've canceled everything till 2021, and they don't even know if CES is, that's one of the bigger shows that they were looking at, and they don't know if they're even going to look at that now, because it's just they're so afraid of, one, being the first one out of the gate, and two, anything happening at any of their events that they're hosting. That's their biggest concern.
Yeah, I'm mostly in the pharmaceutical side, but not in the right pharmaceutical side to really
Molly.
So, but they're kind of following suit. Even leading up to this, they're like, it's spring POA, it's a go, and then bam, it was gone.
There's going to have to be some laws that come in place that kind of exonerates these events from being sued for somebody getting sick at it. It just doesn't seem that it's just if you can just
like we talked
blame
about
anybody that got sick.
I think we talked about this last week, like a federal indemnification law that basically says, if you willingly go, because it's not just us, it's restaurants. If I open my restaurant next month because the governor tells me I can, and a table of 6 gets sick, can they sue me? Are they going to sue me? And that's everywhere. That's all over the place. I think everyone's dealing with that problem, and generally it comes down to a couple of things: intent and neglect, basically. Did I neglect to give you a safe environment to eat your dinner or to go to your concert? And intent means I actually intentionally hurt you or made you sick. And obviously neither of those is true, but people are still going to sue. So you almost need like a federal law to come in and say, we're going to indemnify anyone who provides a venue for people to go to willingly. And then if they happen to pick up a virus, they can't sue you.
Yes, this is going to be the next mesothelioma ad. I can see it already.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is your current concert tickets have these stipulations in them already that you're basically signing off your
Yeah, but that doesn't matter because all that is a little stupid. That's a little release, and those never really work because you can still sue. And no matter what, you can still sue. But Jason wanted to say something.
Yeah. Do you? It's funny that you were talking about that, and I was thinking about this yesterday. Do you think we'll have a new set of guidelines that will have to venues in particular will have to adhere to? Because hearing what MLB is doing, and I was just talking to an LD yesterday, and he was talking about how we're going into this Arizona thing potentially, where we film all the games, broadcast from Arizona because they have a ton of ballparks there. I mean, the promoters aren't really going to allow us, I don't think, to have events if Major League Baseball and hockey and basketball, etc., are not doing events. We're going to have to follow suit, right? So will there be a new set of guidelines that venues and us as production providers will have to adhere to? And if that means socially distancing or easing people back into a schedule where they're actually doing shows again, does that mean that venues are a third or a half full and now we're seeing a show sit down in an arena for 4 nights? Are we playing, the Moda Center in the theater configuration instead of an arena and doing 4 or 5 nights there so people can go see
a possibility. I mean, that's a possibility. But, I think one of the things that all of the promoters and venues and us and artists and everybody else is waiting for is either a vaccination or a cure. We need one of those two things. We need a pill that either makes you better instantly or a pill that says you're never going to get this virus.
Or
and
a promising antiviral.
That those are both coming. I think those are both coming.
Yeah.
And so, because they're smart companies. Like, I just think it's not going to be the federal government that provides us those items. It's going to be Google or, some big health company or whoever it is.
Well, what happens then too if we all go back to doing this and we reschedule all these things, and we do have this dreaded second wave that they're talking about, that may come in the fall, and that's almost more damaging to not only us, of course, being kind of an anomaly of the economy, but the economy in general, because we'll all ramp up and then we'll have to essentially, go back into shelter. We can't do this as a continuous yo-yo cycle,
That's the recommendation from the Imperial College in London. That's the recommendation from Harvard. If you look at
what is the recommendation?
It's the medical field in major universities across the country that are doing these studies that are just saying, listen, at the end of the day, if your doctors, nurses die, or your hospitals can't function, then it's a waste of time. So the easing of these lockdown measures, who all happen at different times across the world, need to be very careful, because if you do it too quick, then you can overwhelm the medical field one more time. And so it's all about history and looking back all the way
The
back.
argument's not that half of everybody is going to get this at some point. It was just about not overwhelming the healthcare system, right? So the point is, half of everybody is going to get it. So once that happens, then this is going to become a normal thing.
That's bullshit, though, Chris. Like, nobody has said that 175 million people are going to get it. I don't think.
Yes, they have.
I haven't seen those numbers.
You got to read. It's all about flattening the curve. It's not about changing the total numbers. It's about extending the time that it takes place in.
Understood. But, the point is, I don't know. I don't think we can sit around and wait forever that there's a second or a third or a 12th wave coming or whatever. We have to get back to work. We have to be sensible. Don't kiss your roadies or your stagehands or your truck drivers or whatever.
I'll kiss all of them.
As long as it's not the
when
groupies.
I see them, I'll kiss them all.
I'm kissing the groupies, but everybody else
what's
no.
the point of touring then if you can't kiss the truck driver?
How is it supposed to work? Who actually wants to kiss the truck driver?
And we're learning more every day, right, guys? That's the thing. We're learning more every day about how this virus spreads, about how it's transmitted, about proper practices to maintain.
If we just stop handshaking and hugging people, imagine how the numbers go down.
Think about LDI, right? We walk around LDI and we shake 150 a day or more.
Absolutely.
maybe that's a conservative estimate. But we're shaking all these hands, and we're essentially just, if this LDI happens this year, I love all you guys, but I'm not shaking anybody's hands. I don't think it's prudent for any of us to do that right now. So,
the only trade show this year was in February. It was ISC, and I was there. It was in Amsterdam. We did not shake hands. We were told, we told everybody, no hugs, no shaking hands. We had sanitizer at the booth, and it went fine. It went fine without shaking hands. I was fine with it, even though I'm a hugger. I hug people when I see them, but this is something you get used to, I guess.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about your back then if you hug somebody.
Elbow bumps for everyone.
Elbow bump for everyone.
So the one thing as a designer coming out of this is, and we've kind of touched on this stuff in previous web groups, is that rental houses are going to try to make their nut back up on whatever tours they can. Is there, I know, Jason, you own a shop, and I don't know if there are any other shop owners on this right now, but how much of a markup are we going to start seeing in terms of gear coming out of a shop for we get a tour, say I land a tour in June and magically it's going to be a club tour and my budget is still the same as it was before.
I think Chris said it best. It's supply and demand. If Chris's shop is empty and you come to him and say, I need 50 fixtures, it's going to cost you. But if he's got 3,000 fixtures sitting in his shop and nobody's renting them, you might be able to get a deal.
It's math. It's just math. It's how many people want that light at that time.
But it's if there aren't a lot of tours going out and these
nobody's
shops
going to gouge. I don't
think it's going to change that much. To be honest with you, I feel if anything, towards the end of where we were, and maybe this is a bit of a controversial thing to say, but there was this thing that was happening, the aggressiveness of bidding, particularly in concert touring, has been getting, almost to a point of unsustainability, I would say, for whatever reason. And we've all done that thing where, we have to get that particular client, or we don't want to miss out on this or that, and this is a great opportunity. But I think this is a good reset button for us to actually be able to be profitable, strong companies. Not every company may. I pray that all of our friends and competitors will make it out of this, but I don't know that that's going to be the case. And regardless of whether that happens or not, I think we need to not race to the bottom right at the beginning. We need to be fair as we've always been. We need to be sustainable.
It's an opportunity. Jason's right. It's an opportunity to reestablish the value of services being provided. And I think that over the years, especially after 2008, I think the producers of these events had squeezed so tight and saw what they could get out of us by still squeezing us that they just kept taking advantage of that as time went on.
So let me ask you guys a question. I really quick. Would it be safe to say that now's the time to start booking for 2021 as a touring company, as
people who book
corporate event company,
get the better pricing?
Yeah, and start dropping deposits now and locking the stuff in at the rate that we are negotiating while we're all sitting here.
Patrick, Marcel, can you remind us what Wiseman said last week? Didn't he say something that they're getting deposit checks?
Wiseman said last week, while you guys are all sitting on this call, I'm talking to all your clients and taking deposits. So
yeah, Wiseman it just came into another tax bracket while we were talking. He's made another million. So
no, he's not on this call because he's probably playing some illegal golf game with Metallica or something, to try and get them to do a show sooner. I don't know, but
he also said he'd be the first one to eat a Glock. So let's calm down.
Yeah, but Patrick, I think you're right. I think it's go out there and take this opportunity to start lining things up for the future and offer pricing structures now, because who knows what it's going to be in the future. It's almost like, here's what we can lock you in at this rate now. Maybe it's cheaper later, but it won't get any more expensive than this.
Well, that's what I want to use for right now to talk to our clients. We don't own any gear. We're an agency. We're the middle guy, sort of like Wiseman used to be. And what we want to do is use this time to educate our clients about this is how we can save a bunch of money. And if you deposit, you're going to even get maybe a better deal, because I'm sure these production houses, because we love all you guys, would love to have a deposit check right now for 2021 or for the fall of 20.
The thing is,
a bird in the hand.
I think if we're talking about not going back to work until 2021 and without getting political, I think you got the wrong president here, because I think this guy wants to get everybody back to work much sooner than that. And so, yes, there are safety things. Yes, there are liability things that we're all dealing with, but I don't know. I think
2021 is a real possibility. Do we think we really could get through this year with no revenue or no?
As an industry, we're done.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're not.
I don't think PRG can survive, and they're the biggest, animal out there. I don't think they can go till 2021 without work. No way. So think about, sorry, Chris, but Christie. Think about Fourwall. Think about all these companies that are backed by private equity. They're not going to survive till 2021, guaranteed. And most of us won't.
Isn't the NFL season in September the Canary?
Yes.
I hope not. I hope not. We got to
Because, if fill stadiums, don't the flight?
You're kind of coming in and out there, Bob.
I'll hold this down. Can you hear me better now?
Yep.
What I was saying was the NFL season, which is supposed to start in September, that's the canary in the coal mine, because if that happens with crowds in the audience, then everybody will follow suit.
Yeah, but the small money for the NFL is those seats in the stadium. The big money is television. So even if they were to play football to an empty stadium, they're going to make loads of money. And so, I think they'll figure out a way to put some people in the stadium, even if they can't put all the people in the stadium. I would be really surprised to see the NFL not start.
Hell, they can do it. They can put the audience in electronically. If you're watching TV now, you can watch electric IndyCar racing or your virtual IndyCar racing. Well, they get every seat filled in the stand.
It's funny you say that, Aaron, because I actually watched, and so my son's a race car driver, and I watched with him on, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, an iRacing race on NBC Sports, which was unbelievable. I mean, we're watching iRacing on television.
Yeah.
And there was commentators and the whole deal. Wasn't
bad, was it?
Really good race. IndyCar drivers.
The NASCAR one was terrible, but the Indy one was really good.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And here we are watching a video game on television.
It's a little concerning for our industry as a whole.
Well, the one that we think is the canary is Comic-Con right now, because that is middle July Comic-Con, and they're still holding all of the studio work that we have with Warner Brothers and all that other stuff. They're holding that Comic-Con will go off. Now, Comic-Con is worse than the Vegas Strip, if you've ever been to Comic-Con. There is people
There's not
everywhere.
a chance that would happen.
Man, they're praying for this to go on. All the studios, all the esports, they are hoping it goes on. And that is our big canary at the moment. That will decide if.
Yeah, but the thing is, I remember somebody telling me that if the Olympics is called off, PRG is done. Because, for example, I know, because I happen to know that PRG, what was it, the Geneva Car Show, I think they lost 25 or 30 million on that show alone in billings. And, these are big hits. So when you think of what PRG has on the Olympics, that's a big number. And I remember somebody telling me if the Olympics go down, PRG goes down. Guess what? PRG is still here. The Olympics is gone. So I think we keep going, we keep moving the bar and going, if this happens, we're fucked. If this happens, we're fucked. But, I think if we go through 2020 with no work,
everybody's fucked.
Yeah, we're all fucked. Everybody's fucked. Sure. Manufacturers, rental companies, me, most of us, we're all screwed.
Choose another trade.
You'll be seeing me on YouPorn.
Before I go, I think Matt.
Can't wait to see that.
Before I go, I think Matt Granger said the toughest thing that we all should hear today, which was that the deals for these massive acts that were supposed to tour this year, those deals are being renegotiated.
Yeah.
That's a tough one right there. that's an indication that the game is changing.
Well, the other thing we have is Live Nation isn't giving their money back. Like they're just postponing tours, and when people are requesting their money back, they're saying, "Oh, you're going to get that show. We just don't have." Like that. That's the scary thing right now.
I don't see how that's legal. Being a promoter on the other side either. If you've rescheduled a date, the consumer has a right to get a refund, right?
Yep, that's the legal.
I mean, even if it's a force majeure or whatever, it doesn't matter. The original purchase date is not the available date anymore.
But a lot of people don't want to lose their tickets, so they won't necessarily fight it.
I mean, the consensus I'm getting from you guys is it doesn't seem like a whole bunch of people are going to actually want refunds on the reschedule.
They want to see shows.
They want to see shows.
Right. 3 months in, they're going to want their money back because they haven't worked in 3 months. Why are they going to let $300 sit in Live Nation's hands?
Well, and I saw somebody somewhere, I don't remember if it was Live Nation, but I saw a report somewhere that said like, 50% of the people are asking for a refund, 40% are saying this, 10%, like they split it up. And it wasn't 100% refunds. It was like less than half or something, which surprised me because I would think if all this is going on, yeah, cash is king, you're going to want your money back. But a lot of people, like if I had Stones tickets in the first, 20 or 30 rows, I ain't giving that shit up. I'm hanging on to that, right?
I'll tell you what, it's going to depend on the tour too. If you got a Stones ticket or something of that nature that's super hot, that you're going to be able to sell, price isn't an issue because it's an older demographic that's got money. It's not going to be an issue as much as, say, a tour that was selling 50% of the house when it went on sale. Now all the brokers that couldn't unload their tickets, they're going to get the refunds, and then you're going to see sales drops. As much as we hate to admit it, brokers are a necessary evil in our business.
Yeah. This could be the year of the underplay. I mean, this could seriously be the year of the underplay, because for a number of reasons, less financial risk to everyone. And, social distancing is easier to do when you're playing 1,200 seat theaters than when you're playing stadiums and arenas. Marcel mentioned something. He said, we're fucked if we go through this and end up going into, 2021 without any sort of revenue. I think there's so many other areas of the industry though, too. There's sales, there's integration, there's still theaters and churches and things that are getting built. Don't you think that we may just all kind of pivot? I mean, it's unfortunate at this moment that we can't use mega points to light up temporary hospitals. I've never felt more irrelevant, for the gear that we own, I guess. But don't you think we'll figure something out if it takes?
But the problem is, so most companies you talk to, like if you talk to, Elation, for example, because I see a couple of them here. If you talk to Jean and you say, hey, what's your company doing right now? They would say, concert touring is 0, shows are 0, but we're still doing, 30% of our business in architectural lighting sales. Well, if 100% of the community dives into 30% of the business,
dilution,
you're still fucked. So the problem is, I mean, we've got to get back to work. The industry has to get back to work. The world has to restaurants have to get back to work. Hotels need to fill up again. Airplanes need to fly.
I'm with you, man. I agree.
So we need vaccinations and, medication to make us better if we happen to get this virus. And, other than that.
But can we make it that long? 12 to 8, let's say worst case scenario, they said 12 to 18 months, and that's at best, that's an optimistic look at this, right? If that's true, and that seems like a really long time to me, I'm not an infectious disease expert, but if that happens, can we make it 12 to 18 months without any sort of can we make it that long, or will there not be an industry at that point? That's the kind of
if we're waiting without a ton of government help, not without a ton of it.
Not without a ton of government help, right.
To quote a phrase from my Navy background, I think at some point it's going to be damn the torpedoes full speed ahead, because it's going to have to be.
Agreed. Yeah. So guys, I'm gonna have to probably end this right about now. An hour and a half. I appreciate everyone very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And I'm gonna invite you all again next week, and hopefully we keep inviting more friends because it just keeps getting more interesting. And do I see Peter Morse?
Where?
Oh my God!
Peter Morse!
Log in, or were you hiding?
I've been sitting here just listening.
Oh my God, I just saw you now.
Yeah,
You know,
gathering all the
here, too.
information. Hey,
Brokaw
shut up,
here, but
Marcel.
he's
Hang
out.
on a second. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Is it snowing where you are, Peter?
No, you know, it's really funny. We had about 2 feet as of 2 days ago, and it ended yesterday, and it's all gone because it's been in the upper 40s through the night and today, but we're getting another storm tonight. So we went from 18 inches, 2 feet to 0, and then we're getting more again tonight.
Yeah, I saw you were like
Crazy.
video recording your wife shoveling the deck.
Yeah.
That was classic.
Yeah.
Best spot to be.
She loves doing it, and you know, it's like a Zen thing for her. Thank
That's
God.
awesome. That is awesome. Well, I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and be safe. And I hope to talk to you again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
Here, everybody.
Guys,
Thank
see
you.
everyone.
It was a
See you
pleasure
guys.
seeing everybody.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
Sunny's dropping, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.